when Mohnish gave his lecture about the two bazookas, and I'll ask you what those are to explain those in a second, but I just wanted to make a joke with you. I feel like the best I've ever understood Tencent was the first time I was exposed to Tencent, which was when Mohnish talked about the two bazookas. Felt like I had a very good understanding. Ever since then, the more I follow Tencent, the more I read about Tencent, the less I feel like I understand Tencent and where they're going. So I like how simply he laid it out.
In the case of Tencent, I was able to figure out their business and what it's all about really because of comments that Koos Becker at Naspers made. So he's been an investor for Tencent for a long time. So Tencent is really simple. At the end of the day, they have two businesses. Okay, they have an army of software engineers, and this army of software engineers is incredible, and it's a very high-powered army, and they can produce a wide range of things which are very valuable in this digital economy that we're in. They've chosen in the past to direct that army towards video games, messaging, now with AI and with cloud and so on. They've put it into a few areas, but they can really direct that army anywhere they want, right? And when Tencent puts money into its digital army, historically they've generated 65% annualized returns on that investment, which is easy to understand because it's a bunch of software. If you put out a video game and suddenly 1 billion people are using it, you're going to make a killing on that, right? I mean, then your ROE is going to be through the roof. The problem with that business is that it cannot use the capital it generates. So it's like the MasterCard or Visa or Amex problem. These engines generate a lot of cash, or like Google search engine generates a lot of cash, cannot use it. And so Tencent basically, every $1 billion they spend allows them to hire about 4,000 software engineers. Once you get to hiring 10, 20, 25,000 software engineers net in a year, net of the attrition, you start running out of places to hire them from. I mean, 25,000 software engineers would be like 100 a day. You'd be hiring 100 a day every single day, okay? Yeah. And to hire 100 a day, like interviewing 1,000 a day.
Yeah.
Okay, good luck with that.
Right.
Okay.
Even in a country like China.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, in a country like India, the elite schools that produce engineers, I mean, we produce maybe 25, 30, 40, 50,000 engineers a year. And by the time you get to the 50,000 engineer, he's pretty much useless.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the first 10, 15, 20,000 are really good. But then when you go to the 40 or 50,000, 60,000 engineer, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. And these are engineers in all fields,
right,
including civil engineers and, environmental engineers and all of that. So it's not just software people. So to actually get software engineers at that size is not easy. So Tencent puts money into their engineering as much as they can. And then they, of course, have to figure out how they fire that bazooka, how do they use that, right? And when he cannot use that money anymore, then he takes the rest of it and sends it to his second engine, which is the second bazooka, which is investing in early stage businesses and private deals and other things on the investing side. And there they have a really good track record. They've historically done about 35% a year, which is exceptional. It's an exceptional record. And that engine has been able to use everything they've produced, which the other companies are not able to do. So there are only two companies out of all the large tech giants who are really good at capital allocation. And one is Amazon and the other is Tencent. And Amazon is not as good as Tencent because they put a lot of money into non-digital businesses. So Tencent only wants to put money into software guys, nothing else. And they know when they put money into software guys and they can get some really good guys, they can hit it out of the park.
So why don't you explain what the two bazookas are?
Sure. I mean, I think just digging into Tencent and getting lost is part of understanding Tencent. So I think that's a good thing. So what Mohnish mentioned in the two bazookas, and this is also something similar to what Martin Lau had mentioned, where he believes that Tencent has two core competencies. One is generating traffic, and the other is capital allocation. So they have this massive pipeline, which is WeChat, with a billion users, billion plus users. And any app or any functionality that they want, they can incorporate with this huge pipeline that they have. They can instantly expose a new company app to over a billion users just very quickly. Like, that's not something a lot of companies can do, right? I don't think there's any other company that can, get to that speed, that scale as quickly as Tencent. So that's one of the core competency, and the other we know is capital allocation. They've been investors in so many different startups across the world. I mean, they're not like limited to China only. They invest in companies in the US. They invest across the world. I mean, all over.
Yeah.
We'll talk about those also later when we get into the investment portfolio.
And I think Mohnish had mentioned something like the best use of their capital. The first use is investing in their army of software engineers, Pony Ma's army of software engineers. They can invest in compound capital in the 60% range. And if you do that over time, you're just going to become a huge company like they have. But then at a certain point, Mohnish said he goes to his software people and they say, we can't hire anymore right now. We have no use for it. And so then Pony Ma goes to what Mohnish said was something like his 100 mini Warren Buffetts or his 100 mini tech Warren Buffetts.
Digital Warren Buffetts.
Digital Warren Buffetts. And they go compound capital at 35%. Around the world. Two bazookas.
We get a few of them in this book. Like, we get to know who are these digital Warren Buffetts. Like, you've got Pony Ma, you've got David Wallerstein, you've got Richard Peng, who else? Martin Lau also to some extent, and of course the person who kind of put together WeChat, Alan Zhang. So, I mean, also just wanted to say, like, sorry for butchering any of the names throughout this episode. Yeah.
Well,
hopefully it's clear who we're
one of my biggest takeaways. So those are the two bazookas, but then it leads to the question of, well, how do they even get people attracted to use their platform in the first place? How do they go from 0 to 1.3 billion users? How do they go from this first text product they had, QQ on a desktop or something like that in the earlier internet days in China? How do they go from that to dominating mobile? Here's my takeaway. They do this and Amazon does this. They have what's called like business 101. Like, people in the real world outside of public companies who run businesses know this is the truth and the only truth to business. You have to give the customer exactly what they want. And I feel like Amazon and Tencent do a great job of just having a relentless focus on what do the customers want. Let me give them what they want. Let me not make the absolute most amount of money I can today. Like, let me not dilute WeChat with a bunch of advertising that would bring in a small amount of revenue, but a lot initially. Let me just make a perfect product for them, give them what they want. Later on, I'll figure out how to monetize that once I have the users, and I'll have the users because I'm giving people exactly what they want. Amazon, the users go there because they did e-commerce better than anybody. Boom, 15, 20 years later, all of a sudden you have a $35 billion advertising business that's growing at 15, 20% a year. So you can figure out how to make money later on. But that stood out to me.
Absolutely. So with Tencent and WeChat, from what I got in the book, is rather than going out and, replicating that same model in other countries, these guys decided, okay, we're going to go all in on China. We're going to go deep. And they said, we have to add value in order to make money. They kind of narrowed their focus and went super deep. And there's this like saying that Pony Ma had said at some point. He's like, you either wait for someone to kill you or you kill yourself. And that is pretty much how WeChat actually came about. WeChat killed off QQ, which was the core business of Tencent, right? I mean, they could see that there was a change. People were going to go towards mobile. So desktops, I mean, if they keep investing in that, it's not going to stick around. So an internal team started with, like, I think Alan Zhang and a few other engineers. They absolutely started dominating QQ. They crushed QQ Mobile, and then WeChat just took off and became this massive core of Tencent.
And if memory serves, it wasn't just the WeChat team that they gave some capital to and told them to beat their current product. There were like 2 other groups or something like that that did not work out and did not beat WeChat, and then WeChat became the one. So the amount of discipline
competition
and talent it takes for Pony Ma to say, you know what, we're rolling in it, we're doing great, destroy my own product. That's kind of like one in a billion kind of stuff there.
It sounds a bit like Charlie Mungo, where it's like, if you destroy your best loved idea. I'm drawing parallels over here, but
yeah.
If you destroy your best loved product, core competency, and then replace that with something even better, I mean,
yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Pony Ma and where Tencent's going at the end of the episode, because I'll just preview that a little. For me, when I think about a potential investment in Tencent, it's just basically, I think, giving capital to Pony Ma and hoping he allocates it at a really, really high rate. I don't know how he's going to allocate it. I don't know what the next industry is, whether it's cars or cloud or whatever, but it's that kind of faith in the manager. It's kind of the bet on the manager there. That's my view. But let's talk about Tencent before 2014.